Here's my vlog for the most competitive Square-1 competition ever. Welcome back, Texas 2021. This is my first competition outside the Northeast US, so let's first head over to Texas. Alright, so we've arrived at the airport with the nice Christmas decorations. Now let's head over to the competition, which is held in this relatively small room. So the first event of the day is 2x2, and I'm being judged by the organizer's younger brother. It was his first competition, which is nice to talk to him about, but let's get into these solves. I don't really practice 2x2 and I forgot a lot of the algs, however a low to average or sub 2 average would be nice. First scramble was pretty good, but I hesitated a bit too much, got a 2.53, which isn't horrible. The second scramble looks really good from inspection, so immediately I get a bit nervous, which causes this to happen. What should have been a sub 2 ended up being a 2.47 plus 2. This next scramble looks pretty nice as well, so it's time to redeem myself from the last solve. Not the fastest turning, but still 1.2 single, which is not bad for me. Not much to say about this next solve. Honestly, the scramble wasn't too great, and the EG I predicted was one I didn't know, so I had to do Ortega, so this solve ended up being not too great. On to the last solve. The average of course was pretty bad with accounting 4, but this scramble also looked pretty good. I kinda screwed it up though and got a 2.53. The final average was 3.18, putting me in 10th place for that round, which also qualified me for the finals. Alright, on to the next event, which is going to be 3x3, and I'm solving at the same exact table. This time I'm judged by the organizer himself, Tucker. I'm using the MGC Evo cube here. This isn't quite my main 3x3 right now, but I did want to test it during competition to see how it dealt with nerves. And honestly, from this first solve, I'm liking it so far. The turning seems really solid and controllable, and it gives me a pretty nice start to this average at 9.12. This next solve also goes pretty well with this cube. The scrambles are pretty easy, so I'm doing a really good job looking for the first pair during inspection. So again, another sub 10, which isn't too bad. In this next solve, everything seems to go pretty well. The scramble is really easy, and my turning is very smooth so far. I'm on pace for a 6 here, but then I log up a ton on this after. But even worse, the timer malfunctions, so now what would have been a 7 is now a resolve. Here's the E1 solve. I'm a bit frustrated that I have to do a resolve on a pretty good single, and a single that could have easily been PB single as well. So for this solve, I'm just not focused, my cross is solved wrong. And of course I get a 13 to replace what would have been a 7. The next solve I'm still not focused, and this solve is honestly just not worth watching the whole solve for. So let me speed this up for you. So yeah, this keeps on stability, and corner twist finally screws me over here, and I get a 22. Alright, this final solve has to be good, or else like what I just previously said, I might not make second round. Fortunately for me, this solve goes pretty well, and I get a 737. So that's a 1087 average, placing me 18th in the first round. Bittersweet because without the timer malfunction, it would have been a PB average, but I can always go for that next round. I can't get too upset though, because this next round I have to be really focused for, because it's Square-1 round 1. This is the event I came to this competition for, so I'm hoping to do pretty well. Hopefully a PR average, which is a 7.7. Ton of lockups, not the greatest solve, but still sub 8, which is not horrible.
It's the same scramble.
Alright, so we've got the same scramble once, but that's fine. Here's actually the next solve. So 688, not bad. It felt like a pretty smooth solve, but still a few lockups during that solve just caused it being a better solve. Here's the next solve. It's going to be barrel kite, which is a pretty easy CS, but there is parity, which makes it a bit more annoying. Honestly, the solve was a bit unlucky, so I actually don't mind this solve time. 7.01 is not too bad there. This solve's going okay, but for the PBO, I switched the layers in my head, so I ended up having to do PBO twice, which ruined the solve. Here's the last solve. This average definitely has PR potential, so this solve is pretty important. I had some nerves for the PBO recognition, and execution was really bad here, but still not bad. Got a 7.2, which locked in a 7.34 average. This did podium for the round, getting 3rd place, and it's a PR average, which is nice. Definitely a good start for a 3-round Square-1 competition. Next was launch at Whataburger, which was my first time and it was pretty good. But we're back at the competition, now we're doing clock. Alright, you guys know me, I don't like clock too much. My PR is 12.98 from 2018, so I clearly don't care about this event. My last few averages were pretty much all DNFs, but let's see how we do this round. As usual, I have a borrowed cheat clock from Samir, and go honestly just to not get DNF average. First off, we successfully make the cutoff, and we get a 13. Don't need to bore you guys with some clock solves. Here's the next solve, 13.61. This next solve, I thought, screw it, I hate this event anyway. So I went all out, pretty much risking a DNF and turning super fast. Well, fast for me at least. And I got a 10, which is almost PR. Alright, this next solve I had the same mentality. Screwed a bit though, and I got a 12. This final solve, the scramble looked pretty easy, so I thought, time to go for a sub 10. Not quite, I got 10.4, but that is PR, which is nice. The average was also surprisingly PR, which is 12.32. It placed me 13th in the event, which is alright. On to another event I don't like too much, 7x7. Honestly, wouldn't mind if this got removed from the WCA, and cutoff's like 5 minutes, I don't average that at all. So let me speed up this solve. I'm still on edges when 5 minutes hits, so yeah, I don't make the cutoff. I can't finish my average, but I never wanted to anyway. And I got a 536.24. Alright, now that we got the bad events out the way, let's go on to Stupid 3 round 2. I had enough from this cube, the MGC Evo from the last round, so I'll be using a Worm 2019. I didn't really warm up this round, so this first half ended up being not too great. I did cross wrong again, and everything just went downhill from there. I got a 13. This next half went a bit better. The scramble looked pretty nice, so I knew this half could have been pretty good. And a lucky PLL skip gives me another 7 in this competition. Alright, so far we have one really good solve and one really bad solve, so these next 3 solves are probably going to count. This solve is pretty smooth and I got a mid 8. I have 2 sub 9s in a row right now and I'm feeling pretty confident on this solve. Another mid 8, so I'm pretty much on pace for a PR average, being definitely sub 9. Since my counting solves were pretty good, I had some pretty good miss room here. Even with a 10, it would be a PR average, I'm pretty sure. So let's see how I do. I think nerves got the best of me, way too many lockups and pauses, and I got an 11. So it's 9.55 average, placing me 11th in the round, but not quite PR. Alright, next is 4x4. Still going for that sub 30 single and sub 34 average, but during warm up I wasn't solving too great, so I wasn't expecting too much. This first off, my look ahead was decent, but my turning was just not that great, and I got 37. This next off actually felt really good. The turning was pretty nice and the look ahead was nice. However, the solve ended up being a bit slower than I thought it would be. I got PLO parity and got a 34. During tracing on this next solve, I was pretty unconfident, so I might get Olo parity here, and also just way too many mistakes throughout the solve just gave me a 37, and luckily I did not get Olo parity. Alright, so this average is absolutely garbage for me, so I know I have no chance, so at this point I'm just going all out for a good single. The next solve was a 41, which is nowhere close to a good single, and this last solve is pretty much just as bad, it's a 38, also a pretty bad time. Alright, time to redeem myself with some Square-1 round 2. With the previous round having a 7.3 average, I was expecting to hopefully improve from there, maybe a lower 7 average or hopefully even a sub 7 average. This solve had a pretty good scramble, but just lucky turning gave me a 7.04, but at least it's still sub PR average. Here's the second solve, not the worst scramble and not the worst beginning. But at the end I had the PBL, I believe FU, and my really bad execution and recognition of that algorithm just screwed me over. I had to forget that previous solve for this next solve to just be completely focused. But again, I have a pretty similar solve. Beginning's alright, not the greatest, but then the ending PBL I just lock up a lot. At this point I'm pretty disappointed because I was going for a lower 7 average and I already have a counting 9, which means that's pretty much over. This next solve's better but still not super smooth, and again 8. Here's my last solve, obviously not super focused because I already know this average is going to be over 8 seconds. And my last 8-second average was from 2019, which is a long time ago. Even with some lucky turning, I still get low 7 single, which is not horrible. So at least that counting 7 gives me an 8.29 average for the second round, putting me in 6th place. Alright, let's try to forget about Square-1 round 2 because now it's 2x2 finals. Even though there are a lot of top 2x2 solvers in this competition, there is still a pretty good chance of podium in my head at least. So my goal was just a podium with what I thought would be maybe a low 2 average. First off, honestly looked pretty easy, but I didn't predict AOF correctly and I got a 3, which was a really bad start. I think all the negative energy from the Square-1 average is leaking into this round, so I really was trying to clear my head for this next solve, which ended up being a pretty nice scramble as well. Honestly pretty bad turning, but the time itself a low 2 is not too bad. For the next solve, the scramble wasn't too great and I wasn't really able to one-look it, so sadly my 3-second solve might be counting here. Choppy solve was lucky enough to get a low 2 again, which is not too bad, and on pace for a white dot was podium. The next scramble looked actually really easy. The green later was only like 3 moves away from being solved, so this one was definitely one-lookable, and definitely had good potential for at least a mid 1. I wasn't really confident on AOF here, so it was a bit slower, 1.6, which is not too horrible though. Because my first solve wasn't a low 2, I have to make this last solve count if I wanted to have any chance of podiuming. Scramble wasn't great and turning was pretty bad. Got 3.84, which is my worst solve. Still a mid 2 average, which is decent, but I didn't think it would podium because I expected it to be around low 2. Now though, my 2.47 average gave me a 3rd place podium, so I was really happy about that, but still a bit disappointed because if I didn't mess up my first solve, I would have beaten 2nd place at least. Super quickly, we are on to Square-1 finals. I haven't solved my best in the first 2 rounds, so this round I'm just really hoping for that sub 7 average, and hopefully a podium. Other than lockup at the end, this solve is actually really smooth and I get a low 7, which is not horrible. This next scramble looks pretty easy, so I get a bit excited, so this solve doesn't go too great. So I got a 12 where literally half the solve was cube shaped, so what would have been like a 6 was a 12, which is a really bad start. I had a huge lockup during cube shape, causing me to completely forget where I was, but just have to forget about that and get on to this next solve. Still really lucky solve, mid 7, which is okay, but the scramble was easy and it should have been at least like a 6. Here's my next solve. At this point I have 2 7s and 1 12, so it still has a chance of being decent at least, or maybe a podium. But nerves got the better of me and I got an 8. I don't have much to say about this last solve. I pretty much just gave up and was not focused at all. PBL execution again was super lucky and just not a great solve, and it just kind of wasted a pretty good scramble. So I got 6th place with an 8.2 average. This is my first time in several years not podiuming in Square-1. Kinda disappointed, but again I did have 1 PR average in this competition, and if anything these bad results motivate me to practice more. Here are the final moments of the Square-1 round though. Max and Tucker were locked in for 1st and 2nd with both mid 6 averages. Even with his +2, Samir does podium, both a mid 7 average instead of a sub 7 average. So huge congrats to Max Shaw, Tucker Chamberlain, and Samir Agrawal. Almost all of them went sub 7 averages. This Square-1 final is the most competitive Square-1 final ever, and I believe this podium is a world record Square-1 podium. Alright, that was really fun, but let's get on to the final event of the competition, the Red 3 final. Don't believe I can podium, but I'll be going for hopefully a sub PR average again, or even better, sub 9 average. My turning feels super good right now. This solve's not the greatest, but still sub 10. On to the next solve. This scrum looks pretty nice, so let's see how I do. So sub 9 solve, not too bad. I think after finishing Square-1, I had a weight lifted off my shoulders, so I was able to turn really well actually. Here's the next solve, again pretty smooth turning, but not quite enough to get sub 10. Now I have a counting 9.8, so I need 2 pretty good solves here to get PR average or sub 9 average. I get a sub 9, which is not too bad, but this locks out a sub 9 possibility. However, PR average, sub 9.2 is still possible. Yeah, too many wrong pairs and too many lockups just cost me the solve. I end up getting my worst solve of the average, and another PR average fail. Despite that, I had pretty good 3 rounds this competition. All of them were sub 9 fails, but still, not too bad. A lot of sub 9 solves, and also a few sub 8s. But that pretty much wraps up this competition. Congrats to everyone that podiumed, and luckily I did sneak in one of them. After that, just visited more of Texas, and very soon I'm on a plane ride back to New York. But that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this short vlog of this competition. It was really fun. And thank you to the organizer and delegate for organizing this competition. Thanks for watching and see you guys in the next video.